My true story from Texas. Point 1. My son said rudely. You don't pay rent, you don't work, and all you do is sit there all day. What exactly do you do for me, Mom? That was my son. My son. Standing in his kitchen, veins popping out of his neck, screaming like I was some beggar off the street asking for handouts. I had just made him breakfast. Bacon, eggs, toast, his favorite. And somehow, that turned into a war. I cook, I clean, I take care of your children. And that's supposed to mean what? That I owe you something? I didn't ask you to come live with me. His words didn't hit me all at once. They crashed down in waves. First confusion, then disbelief, and then that sharp, cold stab in my chest. I looked at him, really looked, this grown man I had raised, fought for, sacrificed everything for. And all I could think was, when did you become this person? When did you stop seeing me as your mother? But I didn't cry. Not yet. Not in front of him. Before we start, please make sure to like this video and hit this subscribe button. So you never miss a story like this. And also comments where you are watching from. Thanks. He stood there, arms crossed, shaking his head like he couldn't believe I was still standing in front of him. And in that moment, something inside me broke, not loud, not dramatic. Just a quiet, final snap. I looked over at the table. His coffee had gone cold. The toast had hardened. The smell of the eggs was already gone from the air. Everything I had made, everything I had done that morning, meant nothing to him. Nothing at all. I wasn't his mother anymore. I was just an old woman in his house. An inconvenience. A burden. You know what? I said, my voice calm, but trembling underneath. You're right. He looked up, surprised. Caught off guard. Maybe he expected another argument. Maybe he thought I'd cry or beg or fall at his feet the way I used to when he was little and hurt himself. But I didn't. You didn't ask me to be here. I came because I thought you needed help. Because I thought family still meant something. He scoffed. Help? Mom, I never needed your help. I nodded. I guess not. There was silence between us. But it wasn't peaceful. It was thick. Bitter. Like poison sitting in the air. Then why are you here? He pushed again. If you hate it so much, why don't you just go back to your own place? I looked him in the eyes. And that's when I realized, he didn't know. He didn't know that I didn't have a home anymore. That after my husband, his father, died, I couldn't afford the rent on my own. That I sold off everything I had left, packed 2 suitcases, and came here thinking, my son will take care of me now, the way I took care of him. But I never told him that. I never made him feel guilty. I just showed up and did what mothers do. Help. Support. Sacrifice. I'll get out of your way, I said, barely above a whisper. He muttered something as I walked past him. I didn't hear it all, but I caught one word. Burden. That one stayed with me. Like a stain that wouldn't come out. I went upstairs. Slowly. Every step felt heavier than the last. My knees ached, my back stiff, but I didn't let myself stop. I reached the guest room, my room, and sat on the edge of the bed. The pictures on the dresser stared back at me. One of him as a baby, wrapped in a blue blanket. Another, first day of school, he had cried all morning, didn't want to let go of my hand. And one from high school graduation. I remembered how proud I was. He had walked the stage like a king, and I screamed so loud I embarrassed him. He doesn't remember that. But I do. A mother remembers everything. I opened the closet and pulled down my old suitcase. The same one I brought when I arrived a year ago. I hadn't unpacked everything, maybe a part of me always knew. I folded my clothes slowly. Neatly. Like I was packing away pieces of myself. Shirts I'd worn while cooking for the kids. The sweater I wore when I took them to the park. The scarf my husband gave me before he passed. Then I found the box. Tucked behind my shoes. Letters. Dozens of them. Birthday card, drawings, notes from him when he was little. Mommy, I love you. You're the best mom in the world. Don't cry, Mommy, I'm your superhero. I read them with shaking hands. He used to adore me. He used to need me. And now he wanted me gone. I sat down at the little desk in the corner, pulled out a piece of paper, and began to write. I didn't know what I was going to say, only that I had to say something. Something that would stay with him. Something he would never forget. Dear son. You said I'm a burden. And maybe I am. Maybe my age makes me slow. Maybe I talk too much or ask too many questions or cook food the kids don't like. Maybe I don't understand your world anymore. I've spent so long surviving that I forgot how to be wanted. But let me remind you what I was before I became your burden. I was the woman who held you through fevers, who worked double shifts to pay for your school trips. I was the one who walked miles to get you medicine when you were too sick to leave the house. I was the one who ate leftovers so you could have a full plate. I was never a burden then. I was your mother. And I came to your house because I thought maybe, in your heart, I still mattered. But I see now that I was wrong. So I'll leave quietly. I won't make a scene. But one day, when your children grow up, and they start to pull away, when your phone stops ringing and the house grows quiet, maybe you'll remember me. Maybe you'll remember how you once pushed away the only person who loved you with everything she had. Not for money. Not for favors. Just for love. Goodbye, son. Love. Mom. I folded the letter, placed it on the kitchen table, and walked out without a sound. No one saw me leave. Not even the kids. I didn't want them to remember me like that. Just a woman with a suitcase, and a broken heart. The morning sun was just beginning to rise as I walked down the street, suitcase rolling behind me like a shadow I couldn't shake. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't have a plan. Just one foot in front of the other, like I'd done my whole life. Keep moving. Keep breathing. Don't fall apart until you're alone. I passed the playground where I used to take my grandkids. Swings still moving from the wind. Laughter echoing from some other time. A version of me sat on those benches once, smiling, happy, alive. Now I just passed through like a ghost no one noticed. People were starting their day. Joggers with headphones. Kids waiting for the school bus. Everyone busy with their own lives. No one stopped to ask why an old woman was dragging a suitcase down the sidewalk at 6 in the morning. And maybe that was the worst part. How invisible I had become. I ended up at the church. It wasn't planned, just instinct. It was the only place that had ever felt safe. I walked up the steps slowly, the wheels of my suitcase clunking behind me, and sat on the wooden bench outside the front doors. I didn't go in. I just sat there. 4 hours. And I cried. Not loud, not messy, just tears slipping down my cheeks like they'd been waiting for permission. My hands trembled as I clutched my scarf. My husband's scarf. The one he wore when we buried him. I hadn't spoken to him in years, but right then, I whispered to him like he was right beside me. Would you have let him talk to me like that? Would you have said something? Would you have stopped me from leaving? I didn't expect an answer. Just needed to ask. The breeze picked up. I pulled the scarf tighter around me, suddenly aware of how cold it had gotten. My back ached from the bench. My legs stiff from sitting so long. But I didn't move. Because I didn't know where to go. That's when I heard the voice. Excuse me, ma'am, are you okay? I looked up. A young woman. Late 20s, maybe. Dressed in scrubs, holding a small lunchbox. Her eyes were kind, worried. I nodded, even though it wasn't true. She sat beside me. Didn't say much at first, just offered me a granola bar from her bag. I took it. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. You waiting for someone? She asked gently. I thought about lying. Saying yes. But I didn't. No, I whispered. I don't have anyone left. She looked at me like she understood. Like maybe, in her own way, she'd been there too. She didn't press me for details. Just sat with me. A stranger. But somehow, more human than my own son had been in months. We talked for a while. Nothing too deep, her job, the patients she saw, her mother in another state. Then she stood up and said something I'll never forget. There's a women's shelter a few blocks from here. It's small, but safe. I volunteer there sometimes. If you want, I can walk you over. And just like that, I had a place to go. Back at the house, I imagined the scene playing out. He'd walk into the kitchen, still groggy from sleep, expecting breakfast. The kids would ask where Grandma went. He'd shrug, maybe mutter something about me going out. Then he'd see the letter. Maybe he'd read it right away. Maybe he'd wait until after work. But when he did, I knew he'd feel something. Whether it was guilt or regret or just a sting of memory, I don't know. But he'd feel it. Because no one forgets the first person who ever loved them. No matter how far they pushed them away. The shelter was simple but warm. A small bed, clean sheets, a hot meal, and most importantly, no yelling. No judgment. Just space. Time. Breathing room. I sat on the edge of that bed that night and stared at the ceiling. I had nothing. No money. No home. No family to call. But for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel completely broken. There was still a quiet strength in me. The same strength that had carried me through labor, poverty, widowhood. The same strength that had raised a boy from nothing into a man. Even if that man no longer saw me, I still had something left. Not for him. For me. Across town, maybe he was pacing. Maybe he was reading that letter for the 5th time. Maybe he was realizing that no amount of work, or pride, or ego, could fill the hole I left behind. And maybe, just maybe, he was crying too. But that part of the story, I'll let him tell. Because this next chapter? This one's mine. Back at the house, the silence was louder than any argument we ever had. The kids came downstairs first. Where's Grandma? The little one asked, rubbing her eyes, clutching her teddy bear. My son didn't answer right away. He was staring at the note. Still sitting where I left it. Still unopened. He grabbed it like it was poison. Stood there. Read the first few lines. And then his hand started shaking. He sank into the chair. For the first time in years, maybe ever, he saw me. Not as a nuisance. Not as an unpaid babysitter or free maid. He saw his mother. The woman who raised him. The woman he just drove out with his words. His wife walked in, saw the look on his face, and asked what was wrong. He didn't answer. He just held out the letter. She read it. Quietly. Her eyes filling up as she reached the end. You let her leave? She whispered. I didn't know, he started, but stopped. Because the truth was, he did. He knew exactly what he said. Exactly how he said it. And exactly why I packed my bags. It wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. Across town, I was washing dishes at the shelter kitchen. There were no fancy plates or countertops. Just soap, steam, and plastic trays from breakfast. But my hands moved with purpose. There was something sacred about it. I wasn't serving anyone out of obligation anymore. I was helping because I chose to. That made all the difference. One of the women beside me smiled and said, "You wash dishes like you're in a 5-star hotel." I laughed. For the first time in days, I actually laughed. My son never noticed, I said, without thinking. But I didn't cry when I said it. I felt light. Free. Meanwhile, he was tearing the house apart. She's not answering her phone. Her clothes are gone. Her shoes are missing. He looked under the bed, in the closet, even in the laundry room, like I was hiding somewhere, waiting to be found. But I wasn't. And then he saw the photos. The ones I left behind. Baby pictures. Drawings. Birthday cards he'd made for me in crayon. He held them in his hands like they were relics of a life he had forgotten to honor. And he whispered something then. God, what have I done? That night, I shared my story at the shelter. They asked if anyone wanted to speak, and for some reason, I stood up. I didn't plan it. Didn't rehearse it. But the words came naturally. I lived for my son, I said. I gave everything I had to him. And when he had nothing left to take, he threw me away. Heads nodded. Some wiped tears. But I'm not angry anymore. Because now I realize. I was never supposed to keep giving to people who only knew how to take. I was supposed to give to myself. Afterward, a woman hugged me and said, "You've got a lot left in you, Mama. More than you know." And for the first time, I believed it. He went to the police. The hospital. The local churches. He called every friend, every neighbor, even people he hadn't spoken to in years. My mom, she's missing. But the truth was, I wasn't missing. I was finally found. Found in the way that matters, not on a map, but in spirit. I had found peace. A sense of worth that didn't depend on anyone's approval. I was finally someone to myself. 3 days later, he showed up at the shelter. Hair messy. Eyes bloodshot. Letter still folded in his hand like a confession. He didn't see me right away. He asked the woman at the desk, "Is there an older woman here?" "Name's Aisha. She's my mother." The woman looked at him. And then looked at me, across the room. Our eyes met. And time froze. I didn't rush to him. I didn't cry or run into his arms. I just stood up. Quietly. Calmly. Stronger than I had felt in years. He walked to me slowly. His voice broke. "Mom. I'm so sorry." I looked at him. Really looked. My son. My grown, prideful, stubborn son. And for the first time, he looked small. Like a boy again. He reached out to hug me. But I didn't move. Not yet. "I needed to leave," I said. "I know," he whispered. "I just didn't think you'd really go." "Well," I said, "that's what happens when you stop seeing people who love you." He nodded, tears now running down his face. "You're not a burden. You never were." I was just stressed. With work. The kids. Everything. I shook my head. "No excuse lets you speak to your mother like that." He lowered his eyes. And I saw it, the shame, the guilt, the raw need to make things right. "I don't want you to come back because you need to," I said. "I want to come back only if I'm wanted." "I want you," he said. "We all do. Please, Mom." He knelt down then. In front of everyone. In front of God. "My kids miss you. I miss you. Please come home." And for the first time, I believed him. I let him cry. Right there on the floor of that shelter. He didn't care who was watching. And neither did I. For the first time, he wasn't the man who thought he had it all together. He was just a son, broken, desperate, and finally, listening. "I didn't realize how much you did for us," he kept saying. "I didn't realize how much it hurt you when I said those things. I didn't realize what I'd become." That was the moment he stopped defending himself. And started facing himself. But I didn't rush into his arms like a happy ending in a movie. I just stood there. Watching. Because forgiveness isn't a hug. Forgiveness is truth. Boundaries. And sometimes, silence. I forgive you, I said. His eyes lifted. Hope flashed across his face. But I'm not coming home today. The hope dropped. I wasn't doing it to hurt him. I was doing it because I finally understood something I hadn't in 60 years. Love doesn't mean losing yourself. And family doesn't mean enduring disrespect in silence. I need time, I told him. I need to find myself again, not the mother, not the cook, not the cleaner. Me. He nodded. Slowly. Painfully. I understand. I'm going to be okay, I added. And you? You're going to learn how to be a better man. A better son. A better father. He nodded again. Tears still falling. Can I call you? He asked. Check in? I gave a small smile. I'd like that. In the weeks that followed, he did. Called every Sunday. Brought the kids to visit me. Sent photos. Voice messages. For the first time, he stopped asking what I could do for him, and started asking what he could do for me. It was like watching my son be reborn. And me? I started teaching reading classes at the shelter. Helping women learn to write resumes. I even joined a local choir again. Something I hadn't done since my 20s. Every morning, I looked in the mirror and said, "You are not a burden. You are a blessing." And you know what? I started believing it. 2 months later, I went back to the house. But this time, it was on my terms. My room was freshly painted. My name was on the mailbox. And when I walked through that door, my son didn't ask me to cook, clean, or babysit. He just pulled out a chair and said, "Sit. Let me serve you for once." And for the first time in my life, he did. I didn't come back as a shadow of myself. I came back as a woman with her own light. I kept volunteering. Kept singing. Kept writing my own story. Because forgiveness isn't going backwards. Forgiveness is moving forward, without dragging the pain with you. And here's what I want every mother to know. You are allowed to walk away from what wounds you, even if it shares your blood. You are allowed to want more than just survival. You are allowed to rest. To say no. To start over at 60, or 70, or 80. You are allowed to be loved, not for what you do, but for who you are. And to every child out there with parent who gave up everything for you. Don't wait until they're gone to realize they were your everything. Don't wait until the seat at the table is empty to wish they were still at it. Call them. Hold them. Say thank you. Because no one loves you like they do. And when they're gone, there's no letter in the world that will bring them back. Let me know if you'd like.